Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It is exactly 9:27 a.m. We're going to be taking a listen to a Heard on Air interview with my colleague Salailo Makwadiri, but also a reminder that this hour of News and Views is sponsored by African Muslims Agency, a beacon of hope to communities for over 35 years in Africa and beyond.
Welcome to Boycott For Justice. This is a podcast series where we delve into deep global efforts to stand against injustice and advocate for human rights. Today, we're discussing a powerful new partnership between the Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions movement and the app Boycat, which empowers people to make impactful decisions with their wallets. And this really, really awesome and cool collaboration aims to make it easier more than ever for people worldwide to actively support Palestinian rights and to punish those brands that are actively, supporting and funding and being complacent to the ongoing genocide in Gaza. And joining us in a bit will be Roshan Dadoo. She's the coordinator of the South African BDS Coalition to discuss the significance of this new partnership and how it strengthens the BDS movement worldwide. And then after that, Roshan and I will also cover a recent and alarming UN committee report which declared Israel's actions in Gaza as being consistent with genocide. I think by now everyone knew that. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting conversation, particularly on this report, which points out to, mass civilian casualties, starvation, and siege tactics which have been deployed or employed by the Israeli occupying forces and bringing forward an urgent question about international accountability and human rights violations. Roshan, thank you so much for joining us on Boycott For Justice. I know it's Friday when I see your face.
Thank you for having us back again.
Pleasure's all ours. I think we can kickstart today's conversation about just you explaining this new, very, very important and I think impactful partnership between Boycat and the BDS movement. What makes this collaboration so significant, particularly for the global push for Palestinian rights and just overall pushing the BDS agenda?
Yes, I mean, I'm just trying to get used to it. It's brilliant, though, because not only can you scan products, and I've tested it. I tested it on Palestine cola, and it came up clear. You can also search products. So, for instance, if you search Coca-Cola, it comes up as level 2. So it's making the distinction between ethical shopping and the really top targeted boycott campaigns. But this is what we've been needing. So you can also then see why there's a boycott against it. And for instance, with Coca-Cola, it says that Coca-Cola in Israel is produced in the illegal settlement of Atarot. And so you can see exactly why and what the connection is. And I think there's also a function, you can add products to it. So I think that's also useful. If you find products that you can't, the search doesn't pick up, you can add them in. So I added in Palestine cola and said, this is, this is not a boycottable thing. And hopefully they verify, and then it would become part of the database. So yeah, I think it's brilliant because also it has updates on different boycott campaigns around the world. So there's sort of a lot of information as well that's contained in on where there've been successes, where people are protesting, and so on and so on. So I think we must all try it out, download it, and make sure that it does cover South African products, and if not, see how we can ensure that it does. Because I do think if you can add products, we should be able to, if there's certain items or products that are named differently here, we should be able to ensure that it is totally up to date all of the time and very useful for us. I mean, I think it is important because constantly there's this question, is this on the boycott list? Is that on the boycott list? And I think that distinction between ethical shopping, where there is a connection, is not a targeted boycott. If we stop drinking Coca-Cola here, it doesn't impact on the Israeli Coca-Cola company or the Coca-Cola outfit in Israel, because ours is made here. But ethically, we want to know what is the link, and then we have the choice to say, no, we're not going to purchase Coca-Cola, and we know why. So really, I think it's fantastic.
No, it is quite a brilliant app. Me and my colleague also just were working on ourselves around it. And what's really interesting for me is the fact that it shows you a level and also why that product is on a boycott list. I think with Coca-Cola, it also showed that they do have plants in Israel, and which level of boycott are they in. So that was also interesting for me. Another aspect which maybe I could ask you is just seeing the evolution of boycott strategies, from back in the day to now, where there's the use of technology and apps like Boycat. I'm sure it must be something quite fascinating.
Yes, absolutely, because it was almost impossible otherwise to keep track of every single company and get the information out there. So although you might put it all out on on Instagram and on Twitter, those things roll so fast that the next day someone is again asking, what is this on the boycott list? Where is the boycott list? And that's been also a bit of a battle. So I think this will be a really, really useful way for everyone to have up-to-date information and be able to check products and be able to see the connections and the idea of the tiering, whether it's a BDS priority campaign, whether it's a level 2 connected companies, and then there's also level 3 broad connections. So you're getting the information. It's not just, oh, don't buy Coca-Cola. Why? It tells you, and I think that's important as well. So we can all be aware of exactly why we are or are not wanting to purchase certain products. And then, of course, if they're products that we find that are actually imported from Israel, then we should here be making that into a campaign and complaining to managers, writing to the head offices and so on. So I think this will really help actually in making those distinctions.
No, definitely. And to all our viewers, you can check it out. I think it's available on all App Store, on different devices. So yeah, really, really cool app. I want us to turn our attention now to the recent UN committee report. The language that was used there was quite striking, specifically referring, to Israel's actions in Gaza as, being consistent with genocide. What can you tell us about that report and the significance of it?
Yes, I mean, I know people feel another report from the UN and nothing is done. And, that is absolutely true. But I think all of these things add up to the pressure on states, on UN state parties to take action. And this was a report of the Special Committee to investigate Israeli practices affecting the human rights of the Palestinian people and other Arabs of the occupied territories. It was a committee that was set up in 1968. But I think what's significant about this report, the very last part of the conclusion, it says the multiple violations of international law by Israel in its war on Gaza, its apartheid system of injustice in the occupied West Bank, within the broader context of its decades-long occupation, come annexation of Palestinian and Syrian Golan territories, and then its ongoing defiance of binding Security Council resolutions and orders of the ICJ, and the obligations established under international law to limit the barbarity of war and protect human rights, including the right to self-determination, are under threat by Israel's violations and by the fact that other states are unwilling to hold Israel accountable and continue to provide it with military and other support. I mean, it does say that it is committing genocide, that, as we know, but for a report of the UN to be so clear, it goes on to say that reiterate the obligations on state parties, including holding nationals, including those with dual Israeli citizenship, involved in settler violence or violations in Gaza, accountable for violations of international law. And we're going to be using that to keep up the pressure on our National Prosecuting Authority, who still have not actually, as far as we know, moved to prosecute any of the cases of the South Africans that are known, that are documented, that in effect have already been pre-investigated for them, that have been involved, particularly now in Gaza, like Aaron Bayhek, who we know was involved in the Ghost unit, and therefore we're pushing and pushing. And this sort of report helps because it ups the pressure on our national institutions and government departments to fulfill their now legal obligations.
We are here in the middle of a Zahra neighborhood. The whole neighborhood is already destroyed. More than 17 towers are down. Here, as you can see, the firefighters trying their best to help. The people are still under the rubble. A lot of the people.
Join Hamza on his exclusive South African tour as he shares his personal experiences, never before seen footage, and powerful insights on the ongoing genocide in Gaza. This is more than just a talk. It's an invitation to witness Gaza through the lens of Hamza Sha'alan. Don't miss this opportunity to meet the photojournalist who brought Gaza's pain and perseverance to the world in its darkest moments. Follow Salam Media on social media pages for more on this tour and be part of the